night through Thursday night, and I'm going to be sharing with you some practical things that we've been using very successfully by the grace of God in treating people with diabetes and high blood pressure and rheumatoid arthritis and things like that. So we're going to get right into it, and I'm going to be sharing with you tonight about reversing diabetes naturally, God's way. So let's proceed. The American Diabetes Association stated that diabetes is a chronic disease that has what? No cure. Yeah. So again, you know, we're told by doctors, we're told by medical professionals that the only hope that you have is to take insulin and medications, and eventually when your kidneys start shutting down, you have to go on dialysis, and that's all we can do for you. So that's the that's the only hope that medicine can offer to a diabetic patient. But notice here, diabetes. What is diabetes? Diabetes is an illness related to elevated blood sugar levels. When you stop releasing and responding to normal amounts of insulin after eating foods with carbohydrates, sugar, and fats, you have diabetes. Insulin, a hormone that's broken down and transported to cells to be used as energy, is released by the pancreas to help with the storage of sugar and fats. But people with diabetes don't respond to insulin properly, which causes high blood sugar levels and diabetes symptoms. Okay, so let's move on. Type 1 diabetes is commonly called juvenile diabetes because it tends to develop at a younger age, typically before a person turns 20 years old. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease where the immune system attacks the insulin-producing beta cells in the pancreas. The damage to the pancreatic cells leads to a reduced ability or complete inability to create insulin. Some of the common causes that trigger this autoimmune response may include a virus, genetically modified organisms, and there's a lot of that now, isn't there? GMO foods, right? Heavy metals, vaccines, or foods like wheat, cow's milk, and soy. Yes, and soy. The reason foods like wheat and cow's milk have been linked to diabetes is because they contain the proteins gluten and A1 casein. These proteins can cause leaky gut, which in turn causes systemic inflammation throughout the body and over time can lead to autoimmune disease. This is taken from drakes.com, How to Reverse Diabetes Naturally in 30 Days or Less website. So tomorrow evening I will make available the handouts for a simple, small donation. There will also be a handout. It will contain the studies that we're using in these slide presentations, and we'll also have a compilation of Bible and Spirit of Prophecy statements regarding medical missionary work. That will be available along with that as well. And for those of you who are interested in a copy of these lectures, this whole series, I have the file here in my computer, and we will download it here, and you can get it from Pastor Harold after the entire series of lectures is finished. So that will be available for you as well. Okay, so let's move on. So this blood sugar chart shows normal blood glucose levels before and after meals and recommended HbA1c levels for people with and without diabetes. So here's the blood sugar chart. Okay, fasting blood sugar. Normal for a person without diabetes is 70 to 99 mg/dL. And then the official American Diabetes Association recommendation for someone with diabetes is 80 to 130. That's fasting, okay? Then the normal blood sugar that they recommend, like 2 hours after eating a meal, for a normal person without diabetes is less than 140. And again, the ADA recommendation for someone with diabetes is less than 180. So when a person has diabetes, of course, it goes really, really high. It goes up to 200, 250, 300, 400, and those are extremely high levels. And I'm going to be talking about a man that we have been sharing with for quite some time who had extremely high blood sugar. We're talking up in the 400s. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to see a video later. All right. So let's take a look at a few statistics for diabetes in the United States. According to the 2017 National Diabetes Statistics Report, over 30 million people living in the United States have diabetes. That's almost 10% of the United States population. That's a lot. And I didn't know it was that bad. I mean, I knew a lot of people have diabetes, but I didn't realize it was about 10% of the population in this country. And diabetes is the 7th leading cause of death in the United States, causing, at least in part, over 250,000 deaths in the year 2015 alone. Now, of course, when you look up statistics on Google, the most recent ones are usually 2015, 2016. It's hard to find updated ones like 2017, 2018 because they're still collecting data. So anyways, that was the result of my research. But notice, that's why it's so important to take steps to reverse diabetes and the diabetes epidemic in America. So we have an epidemic. This is really serious. So reversing diabetes with diet and exercise. Exercise reduces chronic disease and can help reverse diabetes naturally. Studies show that exercise improves blood glucose control and can prevent or delay type 2 diabetes, while also positively affecting your blood pressure, heart health, cholesterol levels, and quality of life. You know, this morning, my day started out really fantastic. I had my quiet time with God, and then, you know, seeing that it was a little cloudy and it was a little cold this morning, I was in Hemet this morning. I woke up in Hemet this morning. I was visiting a friend of mine. And while I was there, I got up this morning and it was quite cold, and I said, great, this is going to be good for jogging. So I went jogging to the base of this mountain that we had hiked the day before, and so I went all the way to the top of the mountain this time, and it was absolutely incredible. Really nice hike alone while my wife and son were still asleep. They're still trying to adjust to the U.S. time. They're almost caught up with us. It takes about a week, so they're working on it. But anyways, so I had a good exercise this morning, and I feel great. Lots of energy today. And but, you know, I want to talk about this for just a second because I have a friend in the Philippines. He's overweight, number one. He's diabetic and has been diabetic for a long time. He injects insulin twice a day. Okay? 2 times a day he's injecting insulin. And I shared with him our health message some time ago, years ago. And we've been in communication kind of on and off. I helped his wife who was dying of cancer. She was in a lot of excruciating pain. And so I went to their home and stayed with them for a little while and kind of helped her. And unfortunately, she didn't make it. But nevertheless, we were able to teach them a lot of very important things about health and lifestyle. And so this brother decided to change his diet to a vegan, plant-based diet, which is good. I told him, brother, you got to get your diet in order because that's what's creating your diabetes. You know, the eggs and the cheese and the milk and, you know, the fish and everything. He said, really? I said, yeah. I said, all that fat and cholesterol from those animal foods is what's creating your disease. He said, well, I didn't know that. I said, yeah, you got to get on the program. So he changed his diet. I saw him a year later. This is a few years back. And I said, how's it going, brother? He said, oh, it's great. I'm eating a lot of raw foods, and I'm eating healthy stuff, and I'm vegan and everything. Oh, good. I said, so how's your diabetes? Well, you know, unfortunately, I still have to inject insulin every day. And I said, well, why is that? He said, I don't know. I said, how's your exercise program? I knew what question to ask. He said, well, you know, I don't really exercise. And that's why you still have diabetes. You're eating a great diet, you're eating the original diet, but you're not burning what you're eating, and you've got all this stuff built up inside of you, this sugar's floating around in your blood, and you're not burning it because you're not exercising. He said, oh, really? I said, come on, put your tennis shoes on, let's go for a jog. So I dragged him outside. He was kind of kicking and screaming, you know. So I dragged him outside, and he has this hill in the subdivision where he lives in an upper-class neighborhood, and he has this nice subdivision with this big, steep hill. I said, come on, let's run, you know. And he's not a jogger. I was just trying to push him, you know. And he ran a little bit, and then he was walking. And I said, come on. So I ran up a hill, and then back down, then up the hill, and then back down. I said, brother, even if you don't jog, you got to walk every day. You got to walk. Exercise is so important. You know, a lot of people think, if I'm a vegan vegetarian and I don't eat animal products, I'm okay. But if you don't get your sunshine, you don't drink your water, you don't take your regular exercise, you're still going to be sick. So it's very important, and I thought I'd share that because it's true. Ellen White says you cannot just do without one of the laws of health. You got to follow all of them. Notice, Exercise naturally supports your metabolism by burning fat and building lean muscle. To prevent and reverse diabetes, make exercise a part of your daily routine. So every time a diabetic comes to us, we put them on fasting. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. What kind of fasting? What do we do? We're going to talk about that, the details. And then I teach them to do aerobic exercise, and we go for a walk. And I tell them, you have to walk every day. Ellen White says, walking is the best exercise. You ever read that? Anybody? Yeah. Very important. We underestimate simple things. Little things like drinking 8 glasses of water and getting sunshine and taking a walk every morning after breakfast. Ellen White says that's the best time to walk is in the morning after you eat your meal. I like to do it before because I like to jog. I like to sweat and then take my shower and then eat my breakfast. But anyways, so here it says, to prevent and reverse diabetes, make exercise a part of your daily routine. This doesn't necessarily mean that you have to spend time at the gym. Simple forms of physical activity like getting outside and walking for 20 to 30 minutes every day can be extremely beneficial, especially after meals. How true that is. So very important that we exercise, and if you're dealing with people who are diabetic, you've got to get them out there, and sometimes you got to hold people's hand. Come on, brother, you can do it. I know you're out of shape, I know you're overweight, and you've never done this before, but you got to get out there and you got to walk. And you got to drag people. That's, because some people are just lazy, and we've got to encourage them to pray and ask God for strength to have the desire and the will to exercise every day. All right. So let's talk about fasting for healing, because I like to emphasize this because we use fasting as one of the most powerful tools that God uses to bring healing and restoration to the body. Okay? So we're going to talk a lot about that in this 4 days, 4 evenings that we're going to have together. All right. While medical treatments aim at, oh, by the way, this is the book I'm reading from, Fasting and Eating for Health, by Dr. Joel Fuhrman. This is probably one of the most important books on natural healing that I have ever read. And aside from Spirit of Prophecy, of course. Because Ellen White talks about fasting as well in her writings. She says, if you're sick, fast for a meal or two. And she says, sometimes we need to abstain from all food for several days. And that's what we do with sick people. We put them on fasting. But notice what he says here. He says, while medical treatments aim at reducing the symptoms and may address some discrete areas of disease, they do little or nothing to remove the underlying illness or stop its progression to an untimely death. On the other hand, fasting treats the entire body. Wow, everything I read in this book resonates with what we've been practicing all these years with patients. And when I read this, it was like a tremendous breath of fresh air. But the kind of fasting that he emphasizes in his book is water fasting. And that is really powerful stuff. And I've done water fasting. I did a 1-week water fast years and years ago. And then I did another 1 week, but it only ended up being about 4.5 days, almost 5 days. And because I didn't have any symptoms of what I was dealing with. But anyways, water fasting. And he talks about that. We'll talk some more of the specifics of that as we go on. So fasting treats the entire body. But notice what he says here on page 129. Heart disease is the leading cause of death in diabetics. And by the way, you can get this book real cheap on the internet, Amazon or something. I buy them used in excellent condition for $5 or something. Yeah. By Dr. Joel Fuhrman. Fuhrman. He's a medical doctor, and he practices natural therapies with his patients. And he has a clinic. How many of you have seen the movie, the documentary called Forks Over Knives? Anybody? He was in that video. He was the doctor that was treating the guy that was drinking the Red Bulls and everything, and the one that had the heart disease and everything. The guy that was actually doing the film? Yes.
He'll be at a health expo in Las Vegas, June 8 through 10.
Right. And June 15 to 17, he will be at Modern Manna's Health and Healing Crusade in Lodi, California. So he will be speaking there, and if my schedule allows, I intend to be there. I want to hear this man speak. He has a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience in treating people through natural means. But anyways, notice this. Heart disease is the leading cause of death in diabetics. I didn't know that. I was like, wow, that's amazing. The point here is that the standard diabetic diet, which recommends 30% of calories from fat, and usually includes, listen carefully, salad oils, chicken, fish, and lower fat dairy foods, is still too heavy in animal-based foods which cause heart disease. Yeah. So, really amazing. Such a diet is risky for all people, but for the diabetic, this degree of fat, cholesterol, and even protein is exceptionally, what? Hazardous. It's dangerous. As the evidence indicates, it is a deadly diet for the diabetic. A high-protein diet is especially risky for diabetic patients because such a diet places a significant stress on their kidneys, accelerating the progression of kidney failure. You see that? So, a lot of people say, I say, are you vegetarian? Yeah, I'm a vegetarian. Do you eat eggs and cheese? Well, yeah, I eat like some eggs. And I said, no, you can't have any eggs. You can't have any animal products. Zero. It has to be 100% plant-based diet. I was giving a seminar in the central Philippines a few years back, a couple years ago. And there was a man, after all the lectures, all day Sabbath, there was question and answer period, and he raised his hand and he says, but I practice vegetarian and I'm still but diabetic. And I says, are you eating 100% plant-based diet? He said, no. I said, what are you eating? He said, well, I eat some eggs and I drink some milk. And I said, yeah, that's your diabetes right there. That is your diabetes. Do you exercise? No, I don't. Well, that's your diabetes right there. That's why you're diabetic. Even though you are vegetarian, but you're not a vegan, plant-based vegetarian or 100% plant-based vegetarian. And so I was explaining to him that these are the things that are progressing your kidney failure. All right. Fat in the diet of the diabetic not only accelerates the disease process, but also interferes with the uptake of glucose by the cells. That's sugar, okay? Natural sugar. Thus further raising the blood glucose level. So I like to give this analogy, and I heard this from somebody else. I didn't make this up. I learned it from somebody else, and it's really good. So the insulin is produced by the pancreas, and the insulin comes to the cell and says, knock, knock. And the cell says, who is it? And insulin says, you know who I am. I'm insulin. I came from pancreas, remember? And he says, oh, yeah, we have receptors here, but I'm sorry, we can't receive you. And he says, well, why not? He says, well, because the door is closed. He says, well, but open the door. He says, I can't. He says, why? Because the door is locked. Well, why is the door locked? I want to come in so I can lower the blood sugar. And he says, I'm sorry, the door is locked because there's fat present. Are you listening? The fat in the blood blocks the insulin receptors. The insulin cannot get inside the cells, and so the blood sugar stays high. There you have diabetes. You want to reverse diabetes? Remove the root cause. What's the root cause? Animal fat. And he brings out, for diabetics, people who already have diabetes, no oils. Not even olive oil, coconut oil, any kind of oil. No oils, no avocados, no nuts. He says these people, their body needs a break from all this fat because their body can't handle it. Okay? They're already diseased. Now, you and I can eat olive oil. Don't fry with your oil. That'll clog your arteries as if you ate a McDonald's hamburger. Do not fry your food in oil. I had a lady friend that preached all over the Philippines 20 years ago, and she died of a heart attack. Why is that? She was a vegan, but she ate fried potatoes, fried tofu, fried this, fried that, and she died of a heart attack. Why? Because of fried food. It'll clog your arteries. John McDougall, in his book, The McDougall Plan, points out that when you fry your food, it changes the chemical structure of the oil, and that oil sticks to your arteries, clogs your arteries, just like animal products. Okay? So use your cold-pressed oil on top of your salad. Don't cook with oil. Not good. All right. So anyways. But definitely not for diabetics. Not even sprinkling it on their salads. Not a good idea. Let them use some lemon or something like that. Anyways. So this fat is the main culprit, okay? The diet plan to reverse diabetes and enable patients to eliminate their dependence on drugs is one derived from vegetables, fruits, grains, and legumes. Have you ever heard that before? This guy's not an Adventist. He probably never read Ellen G. White. But you would think, after reading this book, this man read Spirit of Prophecy. Or either that or he read Genesis 1:29 in the Bible and Genesis 3:18. But anyways, definitely he's right on target. The Lord has been leading this man. Very intelligent. Refined and overly processed foods, convenience foods, and foods that are high in refined carbohydrates, salt, and other additives should be avoided for good health. In other words, if it comes in a can or package, don't eat it. I tell my patients in the Philippines, I tell them in Tagalog, kung hindi galing sa garden, wag na pumasok sa bibig. In other words, if it does not come from the garden, do not put it in your mouth. Period. Well, what about, no, does it come in a can or a package? Yeah. I said, no. Fresh produce. Fruits, vegetables, nuts, grains, seeds, legumes. But lay off the nuts for a while till the body heals. Okay? The diabetic who is even more sensitive to the harmful effects of the American diet should take care to consume a natural, plant-based diet with an abundance of raw vegetables in the form of large salads every day. That should be the main thing they're eating is salad, 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 and lots of salads. Okay? Very important. That's page 136 and 7. It is essential that the diabetic avoid concentrated vegetable oils, including margarine, olive oil, corn oil, and other fats. Nuts, olives, and avocados are also best left out of the diet due to their fat content. Remember, we're dealing with somebody whose body is not capable of handling things that you and I could normally handle if we're not diabetic, okay? So best left out of the diet for a time until they recover. More recent studies reporting on the fasting of diabetic patients have likewise shown excellent results and confirmed the changes I see with my patients. And I can resonate with that because I see it all the time and have seen it for many, many years with our patients, people that come to us for help. They concluded that following a prolonged fast, the diabetic patient shows a substantial improvement in insulin function independent of the degree of weight loss. And restoration of pancreatic function can occur that does not occur with weight loss alone. Complete remission of diabetes was reported in many patients, and I see this all the time. We have patients who have extremely high blood sugars, who are taking insulin and other drugs. In 5 to 10 days, their blood sugars are completely normal and they're off their medications. Now, in some cases, it takes longer, depending on how long they've been dependent on insulin and how toxic their body is. So there's no one cookie cutter, you're going to be well in 10 days or 20. We don't know. Only God knows that. But the program is the same, and we're going to talk about that a little further on in this series of lectures. Okay? Carrots are good blood regulators and also help eye problems in diabetics. Juice with a green apple, not red, as this helps bring down sugar levels. Then add any other green vegetables. Now, we know that carrots, if you juice a lot of carrots, that's too sweet. That'll make the blood sugar go up. So he's talking about very few carrots, a little bit of carrot. And we're going to see some examples of that. But what I like to fast the diabetic patient on is what I call green juices. Okay? And I'm going to show you a couple slides, and you can copy them, or you can bring a USB, and you can get a copy of the lectures at the end of the series. And you can get a copy of these references and recipes. But we like to juice the green leafy vegetables, pure green juice, with a little bit of unripe pineapple. Now, we don't use, in the Philippines, when we juice, because we have different vegetables and things there, we get our Fuji apples from China or from California sometimes. They do ship a lot of produce from here, like grapes and oranges, and we get apples from Washington, but we get Fuji apples. We juice that for people that are non-diabetic. We juice that with all the greens and carrots and whatnot. But for diabetics, we use unripe pineapple. And I don't mean totally green, sour pineapple, just a little bit ripe, but very low in sugar. Because if it's really ripe, it's very sweet, and of course the sugar content of that fruit is going to be high. And pineapple in the Philippines, you can get a good-sized pineapple for about 10 or 15 cents. You know those ones you get here from Hawaii that you pay $5 or $6 for? We pay like 10 or 15 cents for those in the Philippines because they grow everywhere. And I have some growing on my property right now, as a matter of fact. Anyways, great stuff. So juicing, these are some of the juices that are good for reversing diabetes. And, of course, this is geared more for United States. This lecture, in the Philippines, we give different recipes because we have different vegetables there. But this is for us here. For instance, 3 carrots plus 2 green apples plus 1 stick of fennel, 8 sticks of asparagus, and 1-inch ginger. Now, ginger is very good because it is anti-inflammatory. And it's very cleansing to the body. So very good. I like to put ginger in my juices. 2 green apples, 1 bitter gourd. You know what bitter gourd is? They call it ampalaya in Tagalog. It's kind of like, it's about this long, and it's kind of a wrinkled fruit, you know, and it's green. Bitter melon. Yeah, bitter melon. There you go. Bitter melon. That stuff is really good for diabetic patients. It's similar to our wheatgrass. Okay, because it's very bitter, but it's very, very high in antioxidant and very high in chlorophyll, very healing for the pancreas. This is a really good thing to juice, and you can get it in the Asian stores. Do they sell that in the regular grocery stores here, Brother Ben? Are you familiar?
No, they don't.
Oh, they don't? It's mostly in the Asian markets? Yeah, okay. Of course, 4 to 6 pieces of celery, 1 green pepper, and half a lemon. Again, 2 green apples, 6 to 8 ribs of celery, a bunch of spinach, and a bunch of cilantro. We use cilantro and parsley in the Philippines because we have plenty of that. We have celery. We use a lot of that. We have some other green vegetables we don't have here. We have some of them, but not all of them. Anyways, a bunch of cilantro, slice of lemon, and again, ginger. That's optional. And here's some others. Green apples with guava. And grapefruit is really good because there's not a lot of sugar in that. It's pretty sour stuff. In fact, when we lived in northeastern California, northeast of Sacramento, up in the mountains, we took a sabbatical for a couple years while we were dealing with some issues and spending some alone time with God before we returned to the Philippines. There was this place that we would visit, and they had tons of grapefruit. And I did a job for this one company, and they said, hey, do you like grapefruit? And I said, oh, yeah. They said, oh, you can have all of them. And there's this tree, it's just loaded with grapefruit. And so we did like 2, 3, 4, 5-day fasting on grapefruit juice with water and herb tea. It was great. Good stuff. So you can dilute it down. You don't want to drink it all the way pure all the time. It's pretty strong stuff. 2 green apples, 8 to 10 leaves of kale. Kale is the king of the greens, they say. Good stuff. 1 cucumber and a slice of lemon. 2 green apples, 6 leaves of collard greens, 4 ribs of celery, and a half lemon. That's another juice that you can use for diabetics. Notice the similarity between all these juices. None of them are high in sugar. They're all focused on green, green, green. Because the greens, the leafy green vegetables, have chlorophyll, and chlorophyll heals the body. Very powerful medicine, very powerful. 2 green apples, half a bunch of watercress, 1 fennel, and a slice of lemon. And another one is 1 carrot, half a stick of fennel, 2 ribs of celery, and 1 sweet potato. All right, so let's move on. So let's talk a little bit about the food. Aim to eat more greens as they're the best for helping and regulating blood sugar levels. Bitter melon, cucumber, and okra have insulin-like properties that make them suitable foods for this condition also. In the Philippines, they grow a lot of the ampalaya, the bitter melon, bitter gourd, bitter melon, and we encourage the patients to find a farmer that does not spray their vegetables, and we take the leaves of that plant and we, kind of mash it up, and we get the juice out of it. And the juice from those leaves is really, it's really bitter. It's very, very strong. And if they drink like a 1-ounce shot of that, it's similar to our wheatgrass juice in the United States. So that's the Philippine version. And also we have malunggay, which is called moringa. Grows on the trees all over the place. It's in my town. I get this big, long bamboo stick with a hook on it. That's a blade, and I just snap off these huge branches of malunggay, and we take the leaves off of that, and we blend it in water and give it to our patients. That's medicine. And it's just growing all over the place, right where we live. Amazing stuff. So really good stuff. Okay, let's talk about fasting and again, restoration of the pancreas. If the fast is used correctly in the type 2 diabetic patient, type 1 diabetes should not fast. That's a different situation. The fasting will increase beta cell sensitivity to glucose, which can restore the integrity to the pancreas and allow it to reestablish its sensitivity to glucose. That's sugar. This is page 140. So again, he's emphasizing the importance of fasting for the diabetic. This is an important therapeutic modality to bring diabetics whose sugar levels are relatively well controlled with optimal diet to the point where after a fast is completed, the blood sugars remain entirely within the normal range while the same diet is continued. So in context, what he's talking about in this chapter is he's saying that it's best to start the patient out on a plant-based diet for some time so that their blood sugars can become regulated, and then you fast them. And after the fast, that's when the blood sugars will normally stay level for, indefinite period of time. As long as they don't eat something they're not supposed to eat, and as long as they continue exercising and drinking their water and all of those things. So again, using fasting in a later phase of the treatment program results in restoration of pancreatic function. So we've had many diabetics come through our program, some within 5 days completely reversed, and most of them within 10 days completely reversed all their diabetic symptoms and off all medications. And we're going to talk more about the program specifically in the succeeding lecture, so you don't want to miss it. And if you have friends, family, relatives, neighbors who are diabetic, bring them to the meetings. They need to hear this so that they can learn how to be well, okay? So that patients regain normal blood sugar levels and, in many cases, have no further findings indicative of diabetes, he writes. Very powerful. Very, very powerful. All right, so we've talked about some of the things that we can do for the diabetic patient. Number one is fasting. We'll talk more about the specifics of fasting in the following lectures. And we've talked about diet. Now, before we get to this video, I just want to show a couple slides from a previous lecture. And I'm going to just look at these. Okay. I'm not sure what time I started. I'm not even sure how long I've been speaking. How long have we been going? About a half an hour? Okay, thank you. All right. Because I don't want to drag it out too long. Okay, so we'll take another 15, 20 minutes, something like that. All right. So we know that God put Adam and Eve in the garden. He gave them the original diet. And the reason I'm going to share this is because a lot of people don't understand that if you don't follow the original program that was given to us by God himself, then you're still going to be sick. Whether it's high blood pressure, diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis. I always tell people, was there high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, or rheumatoid arthritis, or lupus, or any of those diseases in the Garden of Eden? They say, no. I says, well, did you ever look to see what was the program they were following? Well, if you want to be well, we've got to go back to the Edenic program, the Edenic model, okay? And that's Genesis 1:29. We're talking about diet now, okay? Not just diet, but this is what we're focusing on tonight. And God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed. Now, the word herb, when you look it up in Hebrew, in the Strong's Concordance, it says green thing. That's what it says. It's talking about the green plants, okay? Which is upon the face of all the earth. And God gave what else? Every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for food. Okay, not flesh food. It's talking about food, generally food. All right? So God gave the leafy green vegetables and those green plants, and notice they're all high in chlorophyll, right? Chlorophyll, which is literally liquid sunshine, which is produced through photosynthesis. The sun shines on the plant takes the nutrients from the soil and the water and converts that sunshine into chlorophyll. It's actually liquid sunshine, and it's healing to the body, very powerful. And God gave the fruits of the tree. So this is the original diet. And what people don't understand oftentimes, and I see this over and over again, and even among those who are Adventists today, who are sick, they do not realize that they've got to go back to the plant-based diet as the foundational program. Foundational program. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no, Well, can I eat a little bit of this? Can I eat a little? No, the answer is no. If you want to be well, no, you can't eat a little bit of this and a little bit of that. You've got to stick with the plant-based program. And thou shalt eat the herb of the field, okay? So God gave all these vegetables, the root crops, and all of that for our healing and for our health. So the leafy green vegetables, all of the green plants, that was part of the original diet. This is in Baguio City in the northern Philippines. And they grow tons of lettuce there, and it's so cheap. Really nice stuff. So the leafy green vegetables, the lettuce, the cabbage, the kale, the spinach, the escarole, the Napa cabbage, and all the other varieties of green plants, the broccoli, the asparagus. We had broccoli and asparagus earlier this evening. That was fantastic. Broccoli is one of my favorites. But anyways, so this is all part of the original diet. And God gave the fruits. And of course, this is slides that I use for Philippines, so we put tropical fruits on there. We have the mangoes, and we have many varieties of bananas, a whole bunch of different kinds. Rambutan, lanzones, guava, durian, star apple, papaya, and so on. Here in the United States, we have the apples, the oranges, the cherries, the strawberries, the peaches, the nectarines. And by the way, I miss those dearly because I haven't had them in a year. But I'm looking forward to that. And so we have a lot of different fruits here, which I miss. And, we have to understand that we've got to eat a large variety of these foods. Don't just eat the same thing over and over and over again. That gets boring. And you're not going to be healthy. We need to eat different kinds of food. Rotate your foods. Don't eat the same thing over and over. Everybody has their favorite food, right? And you like to eat it more than other foods, but we need to eat the other things as well. So very important that we have a balanced diet. Very important. Look at the colors of all the fruits. Isn't that fantastic? Look at those mangoes. Isn't that beautiful? Oh, I love it. Remember, healthy food is grown, not processed. Healthy food is grown, not processed. And notice this. Now we're talking about cholesterol, right? Cholesterol is found only in animal products. By the way, this comes from another lecture called Health Bites. And they're pointing out that all of the animal products contain cholesterol. And cholesterol plugs up your arteries, blocks those insulin receptors, creates diabetes and high blood pressure. And a myriad of other diseases, such as rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, autoimmune diseases. This is all caused by animal foods. And some people say, oh, but I only eat a little bit of this. No. That's what's creating our sicknesses, okay? Again, fruits, vegetables, grains, and nuts do not contain cholesterol. People say, well, how about avocados and almonds and peanuts? Yeah, they have fat, but the plant-based fats do not clog your arteries like the animal-based fats. There's a total difference in the chemical structure of those fats and how they react in the human body. The plant-based fats God made because we need them. And by the way, I love the avocados, California avocados, wonderful stuff. I've been eating them left and right. But, we need these fats in our body, and they don't clog our arteries. The body processes them normally, just like anything else. But those animal foods, that was only emergency food after the flood, and only for a time. And then God brought them out of the wilderness, out of Egypt into the wilderness, rained upon them a vegetarian diet, if you will, a non-flesh diet. And, of course, we know the results of their rebellion and everything. So we're going to skip this. We're not going to emphasize that tonight. So I want to show you a couple more slides on diet. Just to I thought this was fantastic. Here's a comparative anatomy between the different kinds of eaters. We know the carnivores have very sharp teeth for tearing flesh, and they have claws, like the lions and the tigers, and they tear their flesh. And even the birds of prey have a very sharp beak, and they have sharp talons for tearing flesh, right? And then you have the omnivores. They eat meat. They have sharp teeth too. But the herbivores, like the carabao, the cow, and many other animals that eat grass, they have flat teeth, and they have these grinding molars, and their jaws are movable. They go from side to side, right? Whereas the carnivores, their jaws, like the dogs and the cats and the lions and the tigers, their jaws only go up and down. They cannot move from side to side because they don't have grinding molars, right? And they have a lot of acid in their mouth that helps to digest the flesh that they're eating before it even goes into their stomach. And their intestine is very short. We'll look at that in just a minute. But notice the humans have also flat teeth and grinding molars, and our jaws also go from side to side because they were meant to grind plant fibers. Anatomically, we were created by God to be vegan vegetarians by anatomy, by anatomical design. God designed the human body to eat a plant-based diet. We see the herbivores. They have a very long intestine. You know, the cows, the sheep, and the goats, they all have a very long intestine, just like we do. And it's for digesting and breaking down plant fibers. However, the carnivores have very short intestines because that flesh food that they're eating is going to become fermented at body temperature, and it's going to cause putrefaction and toxicity in the body, so they have a short intestine, so it comes right out. But what happens when we put that kind of food in a long intestine at this body temperature? Fermentation, toxicity, and disease. That's what happens. So we were created by God to be plant-based eaters, just like these animals. This is the carabao. This is the animal that plows the rice fields in the Philippines, and they can haul these huge logs, like 5 or 6 big, long trees up mountains, just like elephants. They're amazing animals. Pure muscle, these animals, pure muscle. Absolutely incredible. And they love to chew their food from side to side, just like the cow, grinding away. And so I tell people, these animals eat grass, and so what do we need to eat? And everybody says, grass, right? But what is people grass? Kale, spinach, lettuce. And people say, oh, where are you going to get your protein? That's it. Kale, spinach. Did you know spinach has more protein than almost anything else on the planet? It has more protein than animal food. You know, we've been sold a bag of goods by the Meat and Dairy Council in the United States, who support the politicians who make the laws that decide what kind of books go into our curriculums from grade 0 all the way up to college, and tell us that we need the 4 food groups, including the meat and dairy and the fish and the poultry and the eggs and the cheese and the milk, right? It's all advertising. And we've been told you got to have this because you need your what? Your protein, and you need your calcium. Did you know if you eat only vegetables, you get plenty of protein and calcium? If you ate only potatoes, you would have enough protein in your body. Did you know that? Yeah, that's a fact. That's nutritional science. You can look it up. But the thing is this. We've been told all kinds of things that are not true. We were lecturing 70 teachers from the public school in our town. I had 8 hours with them. The mayor invited me to come and speak. He said, I want you to preach to them everything about health and all the seminar. I said, okay, well, I'm not going to speak 8 hours straight because they'll fall asleep. So we did 1 hour, then we took a break, served some juice and smoothies, and my wife did a demo, and then another hour. And I spoke for like 6 hours. Yeah, and they were like just glued. They were like, wow, you know. And the blessing is that at the end of the seminar, the one lady stood up, and these are all educators, okay? She stood up and she says, you mean to tell us that everything that we've been teaching in the school about diet is wrong? And I said, thank you for asking that question. And I prayed, I said, Lord, help me. And I said, the wisdom of this world is foolishness with God. Remember, Genesis 1:29, God himself, the creator of this body that we live in, says that we're to eat a plant-based diet, and it has all the nutrients that we need. She said, oh, okay. And she sat down. And then another lady popped up, and she says, but you know what? I'm 70 years old, and I've been drinking milk and eating eggs and cheese and meat all of my life, and I never got sick. And I says, thank you for sharing that. And I said, are you aware that almost every heart attack that occurs without a warning, and they drop dead? And she sat down. And I said, you know, I understand. In fact, there are people that smoke cigars and drink alcohol all their life and never get sick and live to be 100 years old. But does that mean that smoking cigars and drinking alcohol is good for your health? Absolutely not. All it means is that their immune system, their genetic makeup is very strong, whereas somebody else that was on that same program would be dead in a year with cancer. That's all that means. So you may have a very strong immune system, but that doesn't prove that what you're eating is healthy for you. So, okay. So the point is, we got to follow the wisdom of God. Amen? So again, when we're dealing with sick people, we've got to do the foundational program. Now I'm going to show you the video, and I'll give you a little introduction to the video. I'm not going to show the whole thing, but the main part of it. In introducing this video, this man Well, I guess there's an introduction. I guess I can just show the video because there is an introduction as a matter of fact. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. We have a little interview that I would like to share with you. This is our good friend Noli Kanghe, and he's from... Well, okay, hang on. You want it full screen, so... Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. We have a little interview that I would like to share with you. This is our good friend Noli Kanghe, and he's from here. Actually, we're here in Louisiana Laguna, where we live here in the Philippines. And he has a little testimony that I'm going to ask him to share with us as we talk about his experience recently. As you know, we've been educating people here in the Philippines about health and healthful living, also how to reverse high blood pressure and diabetes and cancer and things like that. And so Brother Noli is going to be sharing with us a little of his experience. So perhaps Noli, you can start out by telling us what happened with your health recently.
That was in October 15.
Okay.
October 12. When I go to the doctor because I'm not feeling well.
Mm-hmm.
Then according to the doctor, then I discovered about my illness.
Okay, a little bit louder.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Then I have blood cholesterol high, uric acid, and also my blood sugar.
Okay. So when you went to the doctor and you had your checkup, what exactly was, how high was your blood sugar? What was it?
My blood sugar is 426.7.
Wow. Okay, so here's the, he's going to read the lab test, and I'll put it up on the screen for you to see. Go ahead. You see? Go ahead.
Okay. My blood sugar is 426.7. The normal is 75 to 115. My uric acid is 9.5. Supposed to be 3.4 to 7, normal. And then my cholesterol is 150 to 200 is normal. My cholesterol is 415.
So his cholesterol is 415, and his blood sugar was 426.7, which is dangerously high. And actually, didn't the doctor tell you that you could die from that? You could go into a coma, huh? Okay? Yeah, so that's extremely high blood sugar and high blood cholesterol. Yeah. Okay, so what happened from there?
When my doctor asking me about that, so according to him, according to my doctor, it's very terrible. It's very dangerous for me.
Right.
So it's possible for me to coma.
Okay.
And then my heart is also in danger because of the high cholesterol.
Okay.
And also it is possible to have a gout because of uric acid.
Yeah, high uric acid. Yeah, gout. Okay.
So that time I was very depressed.
Right. Sure. That's not good news. That's bad news. Okay. So what did you do? What happened? I mean, you know.
But when my friend Brother James visited me in my home, and he had to give me an advice to change my diet, and then I followed it. Mm-hmm. So since then...
And also, what else did you do besides diet?
What?
Besides diet, what else?
Yeah.
Exercise? Or was that later?
Yeah.
Was the exercise later?
Yeah.
Or was that right?
I changed my diet.
Okay.
And then I started to exercise.
Okay.
Then, after 12 days, there's amazing result. Just only 12 days, I started for my plant-based diet and then regular exercise every day. Just only for 12 days.
So amazing. So before you tell us the result, now, of course, as he said, he changed his diet to 100% plant-based diet. That means no animal food, no cheese, no eggs, no milk, no meat, no fish, no chicken, none of that.
Yeah.
All 100% vegetables and fruits, grains, nuts, seeds, legumes, like that. So as a result of not only changing your diet, which of course is going to lower your cholesterol, it's going to lower your blood sugar, but you also incorporated exercise. What kind of exercise were you doing? Can you tell us?
Sit up, pull-up, jogging, and push-up.
Wow, so aerobic exercise and weight-bearing type exercise. Yeah, okay.
So
Resistance exercise.
I start to exercise at the 4 p.m. In the morning.
4 in the morning.
Until 5 is 1 hour.
Okay.
And then if I have a time for the afternoon, I also jogging and push up and then pull up.
Okay.
So just an aerobic exercise.
Praise the Lord. So what was the result when you went back to the doctor? How many days later was it?
12 days later.
12 days later, you went to the doctor, and what were the test results? I'll put I'll put a picture of this chart that he's going to be reading from up on the screen so you can see it. But I'll let you go ahead and read the results of that chart for us. Okay?
After 12 days of my diet and regular exercise, it is a totally plant-based diet, 100%. The result of my test is my blood sugar is down to 100.
So the glucose went from 426.7
down
to 100 in 12 days,
Yeah, 12 days,
with
right?
exercise and changing to a plant-based diet in only 12 days.
12 days. And then my uric acid is from 9.1 down to 6.1.
Okay, down to
normal.
normal range. Okay.
Yeah. My cholesterol is down for 100 plus, it's now 155.
Yeah. Okay. So,
0.3.
excuse me. So the cholesterol was 400 plus, and then it went down to 155.3 in only 12 days.
12 days.
That is less than half.
Yeah.
I mean, that is astonishing. That is absolutely amazing results. And, we see these kind of results all the time here in the Philippines, working with people like yourself, diabetics. Actually, we see that in days when they're doing fasting. Now, you didn't do fasting, but you did change the diet. You did the exercise. You burned up that excess glucose. You eliminated the high-fat, high-cholesterol foods out of your diet. You ate 100% plant-based diet, and that's why you got those amazing results in only 12 days.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So, go ahead and tell us some more.
I think this is a very, very...
Okay. So here we see a real-life testimony. I'll just leave that on the screen for a second. A real-life testimony of a man that was extremely ill. I mean, 426 blood sugar, you can go into a coma and die from that. That's really serious. And so they put him on medication right away, and they give him all these pills and everything, and he says, I don't want to take synthetic medicine. And he was praying to God, and God impressed him that he needed to read those books on the shelf that he never read by Ellen White, like Counsels on Diet and Foods and Ministry of Healing. And he started reading, he says, Brother James is right. And I've been preaching this for 6 years in our church. And I says, well, brother, I asked him privately, I says, didn't all that preaching affect you at all? He says, no, it went in one ear and out the other, because I'm hard-headed. And so, but, sometimes we have to face a life and death situation before we wake up. And it's sad that a lot of times that's the way it is. But the blessing is that he was able to reverse without even fasting. I mean, we fast everybody who comes to us. We put everybody on fasting, okay? We'll talk about that in the next lectures. But, just to change the diet. And this man was doing at this time of year, it was still raining some. And he was jogging in his house, running for like 20, 30 minutes. I mean, he's serious. And if it's not raining, he'd go out 4 o'clock in the morning and run for an hour. This man is desperate. He says, I don't want to die. I'm only 50, I think he's my age, 52, 53, something like that, young. And he says, I'm not going to die young. I just need to follow the program. And so he kept reading Ellen White. And then we invited him to speak at our church. He was an elder before I was. But anyway, so he came to our church because he's attending another church now. And he preached, and can you guess what he preached? Anybody? The health message. Brethren, Brother James is right. He's been telling us what's in these books the whole time, and we're not even reading it. It's here. I didn't make this up. God gave it to us 100 years ago, right? So, so that was the blessing. Now, in closing, I have a lot of people ask me some questions like, we talked about the juices that we will use, green juices for diabetics, a lot of green leafy vegetables for eating, and a lot of people ask me, well, what supplements would be good? Well, green leafy vegetables, green juices, that's good. And I do offer something to my patients that my wife and I put together. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because this is something that we use with our patients. It's called Super Greens. It's a simple product that we put together. All the ingredients come from this country. They are certified organic. It's got barley grass. You're familiar with barley grass. Everybody's heard of that, right? And it has barley grass juice powder. So what they do is they take the barley grass, they cut it in the milk stage, and they juice that, and they dehydrate the juice below 100 degrees. So all the enzymes are present. And then it has wheatgrass juice powder, alfalfa leaf, spinach leaf, oat straw, rose hips, acerola cherry, orange and lemon peel, blueberry, maca root, and stevia leaf for flavor. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because a number of people asked us when we were here last time if we had some available. So we wanted to make this available to anybody that's interested. After the meeting, we'll have this. You can see my wife. We've got some with us. And I don't normally, in fact, I never actually, this is the first time I've ever introduced my product in a meeting. Because usually our meetings are on Sabbath, and I wouldn't even mention it on Sabbath, because that's like doing business. I don't make sales pitches from the pulpit. But we're offering this because we're trying to raise money to pay for my wife's plane ticket that we had to pay for with credit. So anyways, if you're interested, just let us know. It's available. Don't feel obligated. It's all the way up to the lid. It's 12 ounces by weight. You put 1 teaspoon with juice, or you can put 1 tablespoon in a pitcher if you're making a green smoothie. Great stuff. Gives you a lot of energy. Almost everybody that gets it gets more. So we offer this to our diabetic patients, people with high blood pressure and cancer, and we get good results. It helps them. But remember, there's no such thing as an herb or a supplement that's a cure-all. There's no such thing. Okay? Remember, it's the whole program, what we're talking about, the juicing, the diet, the exercise, the water, the sunshine. It's the laws of health. This is just something that is an additional supplement. So if you're interested, let us know. It'll help us raise money to pay for the plane ticket coming back here. Because when we were scheduled in November to come back here, the Lord had us so busy in the Philippines. The Lord told us, forget it. You're not going back to the States. Just stay here. I've got a lot more work for you to do. And had we left, we would have lost so many blessings. It's been so blessed to be there for 10 months and minister, and God sent us all over the country. So we praise the Lord for that, but we did have to buy our return ticket for my wife and my son on credit. So we're trying to raise money to pay for that. So anyways, in closing, I want to thank you, and maybe should we entertain a few questions, or maybe next time? What do you think, Harold? What time is it? Okay, so anybody have questions? We can have question and answer. Yes. Oh, right, there you go. Okay, we'll pass the mic around. If you have a question, raise your hand, and then we'll pass it around to you. Yes.
Actually, I do.
Uh-oh. Okay, he's got to turn the volume up on that one. Okay. Okay.
Okay. Well, I just have 2 comments to make. I don't think it's on.
Okay. No. Yeah, not enough volume. Just a little more volume. Testing. Oh,
Yeah.
That's my mic. Yeah.
Okay. 2 comments.
Okay, there you go. That's fine.
One on the the blood sugar 2 hours after eating.
Right.
When I was there for nursing, I was always told that the normal blood sugar 2 hours after eating will be maximum 180.
Okay.
And I heard that the AME or whoever the board is in charge of this have lowered the normal so that when we are still within normal, according to them, we're high, and so maybe they want to treat us as diabetics or something like that.
Okay.
Okay, then another one
I'm glad you brought that up, because this information I downloaded from the internet, so perhaps this is the older recommendation. So you're saying it's lower than what's here? Is that what you're saying?
No. What you gave is probably the most recent one.
Oh, okay. So this is 2 hours after meals?
2 hours after meals for a normal person.
They're saying less than 180, right?
No, around 180.
Okay.
Maximum 180.
And for normal people, less than 140.
Yeah, and for diabetics, I'm not sure, but it's probably a little higher. And the second one is walking after meals is very good for diabetics.
Yes. Absolutely. Very good. I would not recommend, in fact, Ellen White says not to do violent exercise, meaning like jogging and lifting weights and all this stuff after eating. because your blood is in your stomach, and it's going to be, you don't have enough blood in your limbs, so it's not really a good idea. Let your food, you can just take a walk, you know, and help to digest the food, but you don't want to do weightlifting and running and jogging right after eating. It's best to do that kind of exercise before eating. So, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Yes? Is it turned on, or is maybe the volume, maybe it died or something? It's on. Maybe the battery's low on that one. Oh, here. Yeah, here we go. There we go. This one's good. Okay. Put this one on the charger. Yeah, stick that up there.
What is the best method to wash your vegetables? Since the majority of us don't have gardens where we pick our vegetables
Sure.
out of the garden.
Right.
What's the best way to, like from the grocery store or what have
Okay.
you?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I'll just add something in addition to that before I actually answer the question, if I may. While we're here in the U.S., we like to shop at the farmers markets, and we talk to the farmers who are selling their produce and ask them, do you spray, do you put insecticides and stuff on your Oh, no, we don't spray. No, we don't do any of that. In Sacramento, there's a really nice farmers market. I'm sure they have them down here, right? Those are good places to buy very cheap and very good produce, okay? And in the Philippines, it's a little different. We don't really, we have most of the people who buy and sell the vegetables. So I tell people in the Philippines, buy the leafy greens that have holes in them. That means the bugs have been chewing on them. That means they don't have any insecticides on them. So that's the best stuff to buy. But people say, I always used to avoid the ones with the holes. And I said, no, that's the one you want to eat. The other one has the sprays. That's why there's no holes. I said, okay. But here in the U.S., you have the option to buy organic. It is more expensive, but how much does it cost for a day in the hospital with all the lab tests? A lot more than what you're going to pay for organic food, right? So it's better to buy organic. In answer to your question about buying conventional produce that has sprays and so on it, there are different things that people do. In the Philippines, we soak it in salt and vinegar. You can soak it in, they have like these wood charcoal. Not the powder. You can do that, but it's kind of messy, and then you got to rinse it all off and everything. But they have like the actual charcoal, the actual wood charcoal, and you can soak it in that, and it will absorb some of the stuff off of the produce also. And what else, honey? Do you remember, sweetheart? Oh, baking soda. Yeah. Some people sprinkle some baking soda in there in the water and soak it for a while. 20, 30 minutes. And then they also sell this fruit and vegetable wash, which is a product that you can buy in, I think, Trader Joe's or, maybe the co-op health food stores sell that. They did years ago. I don't know about now. But there are various ways that you can do that. So that's a good question, though. Yes? I'm sorry? Salt. Yeah, we put rock salt. We use the rock salt in the Philippines. That's similar to like the Himalayan salt, Celtic sea salt, stuff like that. Yeah, so. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. Did you know, I saw a video, and by the way, I'll just throw this out. The apples that we buy, they have a lot of wax on them and stuff, So what you do, if you soak them in a good portion of vinegar with warm water, it actually takes all the wax off. It just starts floating to the top, and it's like, ooh, man, that's really terrible. But yeah, it works very effective. You can get the wax off, and so, yes.
Even just with warm water.
Yeah, even warm water will do it. Yeah.
That's what I do.
Right. Yeah, but vinegar will help. Yeah. Yeah, use apple cider vinegar. Yes. Another question? Yes, Harold? Yeah.
Don't wash your cabbage. Don't wash cabbage at all, because the bacteria that grows in the cabbage are good bacteria to the gut.
Ah, I didn't know that. Good.
Yeah.
You learn something every day. Praise the Lord.
Just peel them, but
Okay.
the inside don't even wash.
Oh, okay. Good. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Anybody else? Yes, you have a question.
It's kind of a weird question, but I
It's
know
okay.
two people who have very advanced diabetes, to the point where both of them have lost their sight.
Yes.
Can that be reversed also, to where they would be able to regain their sight?
Probably not.
That's what I
because
was
there's
afraid.
damage to the retina, and that's a degenerative disease caused by neuropathy, which is what people that have advanced diabetes for many years, partial blindness or complete blindness, neuropathy, which causes the deadening of the nerves in the extremities, like the fingers and the toes, and eventually they get infections in the feet, and then the doctors will, they start with the foot and then it goes up from there. So, and that happened to my grandmother. She died of that, and I've had a friend who died of that also. So I've seen it quite a few times, and I'm familiar with neuropathy. But in the early stages, it can be reversed. And blindness can be prevented when it's beginning, if it's caught early enough, if the person does what we've just been talking about tonight, faithfully.
Yeah.
And you can't cheat. You can't eat a little of this and a little of that. You've got to stick with the program. And it's got to be the grace of God that's empowering you to follow, because this is not easy,
Yeah.
And we need God's grace to follow His health laws.
Yeah, one of the people is my brother-in-law, and we have been witnessing to him for 40 years, literally 40 years. And we've just seen it progress worse and worse. And now what he tells me, he's finally realized that what we're saying is true.
Yeah, but it's...
And he grows, well, he doesn't, but he has my sister and his son grow that, they grow a lot of their own produce now.
Good.
But he tells me, well, what's the point? It can't make me see again. I'm not going to restrict my diet. I mean, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, doctors in the Philippines oftentimes will tell the relatives, just let them eat whatever they want. They're going to die anyways. And I don't agree with that at all. But that's a common practice over there. Yes. I'm sorry, who was first? This brother back here, Brother Anastasio. Yes.
Just a little testimony, actually.
Okay.
There was this nurse, a male nurse, that attended the CHIP program.
Okay.
And during that program, we used to...
Batteries.
We
okay.
encourage people to stand up like a week later, 2 weeks later.
Right, okay.
And this guy won't say a word until the last week of the program. Very quiet, a male nurse. And finally he stood up and he said, I have done everything by the book. And he said, without exercise, it's not going to do it.
Amen. Yep. I see that all the time. Yeah, I see it all the time. If the people are not exercising, even when we're treating patients, I'll take them out for a walk, even when they're fasting. I don't let them jog, because they're fasting, So, but when they walk, the blood sugars go down, But if they're not walking, they go right back up. So, yeah, it's really true. Yes. Yes, brother, you have a question or a comment? Yes.
I was just going to make a comment.
Sure.
When everything else fails, the only thing left is prayer, and
that's right.
And God in heaven is
Amen.
The one that works the miracles.
That's right. And even following these simple things, we can do all the right things but still be sick if we don't have faith in Jesus Christ, because only Jesus Christ can heal the body. And so, years ago, my wife and I went through a phase, which I think a lot of medical missionaries go through. You think, if I just do this and just do that, then it's going to work, But really, it's God's power that's using the simple things. So these are God's agencies. So ultimately, I tell you, we treat a lot of sick people, and some of them are so sick that I'm like, no, tell them don't come. No, I don't want that, And they're like, no, we have to come. We're coming. And I'm like, stage 4 cancer. I'm like, oh boy, and I'm stressed out. But the Lord will give you wisdom to know how to deal with these people if you are sensitive to the Holy Spirit's leading. Yes, brother. Yes, in the back. Okay. Yes, Emilio. Yes, please. Okay.
Hi, Brother James.
Hi.
What additional, when it comes to water fasting, if someone decides they want to do it for a day, or maybe even 2 days, do you recommend any additional solution that can be put in the water? Example, cayenne pepper, honey, something like that.
Yes. They can put some honey in the water. They also have available in this country. It's a fairly new product. I think a couple years old. Vita Coco. It's that coconut water that they sell in the little cartons. We drink that from the 7-Elevens when we're traveling in the Philippines. We'll pull over and get one of those, And sometimes we drive late at night from a trip, and to stay awake, I'll take some of the super greens and mix it up with that, and we drink that, and gives it a lot of energy. But that's good to also add because it has natural sugar in it. So you can fast with that also. We also, when we water fast people, we let them drink herb teas as well. What's that, honey? Yeah, in the Philippines we use fresh coconut. But as funny as it may sound, I have 3 coconut trees on my property, because before I bought it, they cut them all down and sold the wood. And I got a good deal on the property anyways. But I have 3 trees left, and they produce lots of coconuts. And before I left, there must be 30 to 40 coconuts up there, but I couldn't get to them because I couldn't find anybody that was available to climb the tree. So it's really funny. Here's all this coconut, but you can't even get it because somebody has to climb to get that stuff. And they got to be really good. Yes. And then we'll come back to you. Yes.
Yes, the Vita Coco, if you're diabetic, the sugar level on that, is that acceptable?
Well, if you're water fasting and the person has a glucometer and you're only drinking a little bit of it, it'll be okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I've actually given some carrot juice to diabetics who are fasting, and not a pure, tall glass of carrot juice, but like maybe 3 or 4 ounces of carrot juice mixed with water, and their blood sugars never go anywhere. They just stay level because they're fasting. So they're burning all of this excess sugar. I'll give them a little carrot juice with water. Now, with the diabetics, I dilute their juices half and half. I didn't mention that, but you can give them pure green juice. But I like to start them out diluting the juices with half juice and half water because they're usually dehydrated anyways. Most people don't drink 8 to 10 glasses of water a day. At least those who are sick usually don't drink it. Usually most people are dehydrated. They'll drink sodas and those Tetra Pak juices that are nothing but sugar water with chemicals in it. And that's real common over there. So, yeah. And I'll give them buccal juice. Coconut water. Buccal juice, they call it. So we'll give them that, and their blood sugars are fine. I've never seen their blood sugars go, because I don't give them a whole bunch of it. Just a little bit, a glass or 2. If they start feeling like so tired and sleepy, then I can see that, yeah, they probably need something to just kind of boost them up a little bit. I'll give them a glass of that. It's not going to hurt them. But not a whole bunch. Yeah, so you got to go easy with it. Yes. And I'm on low bat. I'm about ready to die here. So anyways, okay. Let me unplug this. Yes, another question or comment? Yes. I'm sorry, Sherry had to... Oh, I'm sorry, brother. Go ahead. Yeah, he's been waiting.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll come back to you, John.
Yeah, I just want to share
Okay.
regarding miracles.
Yes.
This is based on Desire of Ages 120.
Okay.
And I love this quotation because
Okay, good.
we like what Brother James said, that in the last day God will not gonna use miracles, but these are the greatest miracles that God has given to us. It says here, with regards to the temptation of Jesus Christ in the wilderness, it says here, but that which is greater than all miracles, a firm reliance upon thus said the Lord, was a sign that could not be controverted. So long as Christ held to this position, the tempter could gain no advantage. Right. So this is the greatest miracles that we can have, is a firm reliance about the Word of God and about the health of loss. And this is the things that, like Brother James are really like sharing to us. Is that, it's not all about like the herbs and everything. It's, first of all, is to really, we have to really determine what is ascertain the cause.
Yes.
As in ministry of healing. Because
right.
a lot of times we neglect this.
Yes.
This process. So that's all
right.
I want to share.
And one clarification, if I may, since you brought that up, and I think I just feel impressed to make a little bit of clarification. I shared that statement the other, on Sabbath, I believe it was, about how, I think it was Friday evening is when I shared that statement, where Ellen White says that, we're not to just pray and ask God to do a miracle in healing people, okay? And she says the reason why is because Satan will counterfeit miracles. And she says we're not to work in this way. In other words, we're not to just go out there and just lay hands on people and pray for miracles. That's not our method. She says we're to have sanitariums where people can be educated and brought to repentance for the transgression of God's law and the laws of health, and experience faith in Christ and experience the power of God to transform their lives from inside out, and then to bring healing to them through natural means. But that doesn't mean that God doesn't do miracles. Now, He does, but that's not our method. In other words, we don't go out there like, the Sunday keepers will say, in the name of Jesus, I commit, and then they're just expecting a miracle. Nothing about diet, do you exercise? How many times a day do you move your bowel? Are you constipated? I mean, they don't deal with the actual root cause, like he's pointing out in the statement. So there's a balance there. God does work miracles through natural means, but there are some cases where God actually just heals people. So, but we're not to work in that way, is what Ellen White is emphasizing. Is that what you get out of that, Harold, Pastor? Yes. Can you Can you elaborate or comment on that? Share, because you had shared.
I was just thinking on Naaman.
Sure.
And one of the purpose of God is for the person to acknowledge God.
That's right.
And so if God says, dip 7 times in vegetables and juices,
right,
do it. Don't question it.
Exactly.
And then they're going to see, oh, there is God in heaven.
Yeah.
That's the whole purpose.
That's right.
Now, and God is healing the wholeness of man.
Yes.
Mind, body, and soul.
That's right.
So it's not just the diabetics.
Right.
It's also the spiritual connection.
Yes, that's right.
Because that was the interest of Jesus.
Yeah, that's right. Very powerful. Thank you. Yes.
Can we take 2 more?
Okay, 2 more. Jerry and then John. Okay.
I'm very interested. I did listen to Joel Foreman and about this water fasting.
Yes.
Is there a certain formula? Because we differ in size. We differ in our water constitution.
Right.
What's the formula that you can give aside from what you have added to Emilio's question on the addition of honey or coconut water,
right,
and the things like that?
That's a good question. I would like to address that question a little further on in the lectures, but in short, Dr. Joel Furman does long, prolonged water fasting. We're talking 2, 3, 4 weeks with people. And he's a medical doctor. And in order to do a long fast like that, you need to be a medical doctor. And I'm not a medical doctor, and I never fast people longer than 5 or 7 days. Now, the longest I fasted another person was just about a month and a half ago. I fasted this man 3 days on juice, let him eat 1 day, and I fasted him 4 days on water because the Lord told me to. And I could see that he was doing well on the juice fast. I knew he could handle it, and his whole body was filled with pain and suffering because he had advanced rheumatoid arthritis. I'm going to talk about that in the succeeding lectures, and I'll show you his picture. But anyways, the Lord healed this man. He's completely, he's like 98% completely healed. He's back to work, driving his vehicle, being productive, and praising God. And now he's following the laws of health. He was an elder in his church. He's a head elder of the church in Manila. And he said, if I had followed what you taught in the seminar at our church 6 years ago, I would have never been here as a patient.
So
the
formula.
Oh, well, I'll talk about it a little bit later. But I just gave him water, and when I saw that he was feeling a little weak, then I gave him coconut juice. Nothing elaborate. It was real simple. Mostly water. Yeah. Because the water fasting, you're depriving the body of nutrients on purpose. But you're giving them water so they're flushing the toxins out.
Yeah.
And the body is actually destroying the dead cells and rejuvenating the immune system. And it's just amazing what happens. Dr. Joel Furman talks about what happens in the gut and all this stuff when you're fasting a person on water. It's amazing. Yes. Okay, so thank you for that question. We'll talk a little more about that later. Yes.
Okay. Between 69 and 71,
yeah,
I was in the military, in the Army.
Okay.
Was drafted right after getting out of
okay.
chiropractic college.
Okay.
And there you're eating meat and dairy and, everything that we shouldn't be eating.
Right.
And I was experiencing chest pain.
Right.
And angina pectoris.
Right.
So, anyway, I decided that when I got an honorable discharge from the Army, I was going to go on a fast.
Okay.
But first I went on a good diet, a vegetarian diet at the time, and gave up the dairy products. I went on a vegan diet.
Sure.
Primarily raw food.
Right.
Okay, then I fasted 144 days on juices and water.
Okay.
And I lost a considerable amount of weight.
Sure.
And I went from 175 down to about 150.
Okay.
And in that amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
But I was feeling great. I was like running on the beach 4 to 6 miles a day. I
Lots of energy.
I had 3 dogs, and they were running with me,
right.
2 Samoyeds and 1 Husky. And so when I basically had my practice, because I took over my parents' practice in San Diego.
Okay, sure.
And so I got my patients on a raw food diet. That's after I had all the blood work done on analysis and everything.
Right.
And some of the patients had extremely high cholesterol.
Sure.
And and triglycerides, very high levels. And then besides the fat being, the sugar levels were very high.
Yes.
A lot of the patients.
Right.
Many of them were way overweight.
Sure.
And I figured, if I did a long fast, and if somebody comes in that weighs 300 or 400 pounds, I would be able to fast them on a long fast, but I wanted to experience it for myself first.
Okay.
And sure enough, I was getting fantastic results.
Okay.
Diabetics, 40 units of insulin a day, and others up to 80 units of insulin a day. Mm-hmm. And they were completely, I've fasted 30 days on juices and water.
Right.
And at the end, plus exercise and so forth, a holistic approach to healing of the body. And at the end of 30 days, they'd go back and be retested, and they found everything was normal, and they were just feeling fantastic, and they were no longer diabetic.
That's right.
And they'd go back to their doctors and they'd get the tests and to prove it, to confirm it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and we see that all the time. So thank you, Pastor Harold. Thank you for coming this evening. Pastor Harold will close the meeting.